Hello, everyone. This is Syed Nishat. I'm a certified financial planner and a partner at Wall Street Alliance Group. Estate planning is one of the most important but most neglected aspect of financial planning whenever I speak to my clients. And they're often scared to actually talk to the attorney. And I understand because their concern is every time you speak to the attorney, there's a bill comes into your play. And usually we see there are a few questions, a pressing question the client have it that do we really need a will? Number one. Number two, what is a TOD? How does it work? Number three, do we need a revocable trust or irrevocable trust? So in this video, I'll try to answer some of the questions we have it. So I sat down with a client, recent client in New York, and the client situation was that the client was married and two kids, and but the client was my age, almost in 50s, a little bit older than me. And one of the discussion was that do you really need to have a revocable trust? Well, the client situation was that he was only had a retirement account and a primary house. So situation like this, I highly recommend everyone to have a basic will because will at least have your desire, your wishes, who will get what. So will is a must in my opinion. Now the question is that do you need a trust? So in this particular situation, if it's just a retirement account as a primary house, maybe a beneficiary designation will do because the challenge with will is that it doesn't avoid probate. Will is a public document, meaning if anything happens to you, it goes to the court and then court release the money and it goes through a probate process. But if you have a beneficiary designation into a retirement account or if you have a brokerage account, just make sure it's something called, it has a TOD, transfer on death there. Or if it's a bank account, something called POD. POD means payable on death. So if anything happens to you or your children, if these designations are there, there's no probate. So this is one way you can say will is enough. It's simply a retirement account and a primary house. We don't have to worry about probate too much. So an argument can be made in this situation, no trust needed. A will, a TOD will do. Now, just to give you another situation that I recently met a client in Texas. So this client actually have few real estates and the client have unique situation because the client does not want to give all the assets to the children right away. They want to give it in installment. And also the client wants to make sure there's no forced liquidation of all these assets. There's a trustee designation there. The client's net worth was close to 4 to 5 million, and it was very important for him that the children get the money perpetuity like in a dynasty form, and he had some specific wishes, and his major concern was the children are spender. So situation like this, an argument can be made to have a revocable trust as well. Because remember that is if you have so many properties, it's the best thing to do have a revocable trust. You create it, and revocable trust is a private document. You create it while you're alive, and you move all the assets, the brokerage account, the properties, the retirement account beneficiary, secondary beneficiary should be the trust. Now, what's the advantage? The advantage is if anything happens to you, all the money flows to the trust. There's no probate. And if children, for some reason, the money stays in the trust, they get married, they get into a divorce, all assets are protected. So in this situation, revocable trust does make sense because according to the client's wishes. Lastly, when do I use irrevocable trust? Irrevocable trust, do you use it ideally? Because right now, in America, there's something called income tax. There's something called estate tax, which we call it, in other word, death tax. Right now, anything over 30 million, husband, wife both pass away, there's estate tax due. So very few people get affected by it. So if your net worth is close to that vicinity, like 20 million, 25, and is going to continue to grow, you might be thinking, and then irrevocable trust makes sense because you put the money into an irrevocable trust, whatever you put in, it grows estate tax free. Also, if you want to do asset protection, estate tax makes sense, irrevocable trust makes sense. And also, if you want to gift it to the children and you want to protect that as well, then irrevocable trust also makes sense. So usually irrevocable trust should be a secondary step after you've created a will and after you have created a revocable trust. If a state tax is a big issue, or you want to protect your assets, only then irrevocable trust makes sense. So just to summarize it, in my opinion, everyone should have a will, a basic will, power of attorney, health proxy, that's a must. Number two, because not everything could be TOD. Like if you have a jewelry, if you have a art, if you have like some intellectual property, that cannot be part of TOD. So will, in my opinion, is a must. Then TOD, if you have a simple assets, that's important. If you have a complex need a little bit, children, you have some specific wishes, then revocable trust does make sense. And lastly, if your net worth is over 20 million, might be going to close to 30 million. Again, more discussion is to happen. Irrevocable trust does make sense for you. So again, everyone's situation is unique. Make sure you sit down with your financial advisor, who's a CFP, who can help you in your overall financial planning needs. Hope it helps.